Want more flexibility when you shop? With over 1,000 stores nationwide, you can get what you need now through Instacart. And with Klarna, you can pay now or later. All you do is add items to your cart on the Instacart app, and at checkout, select Pay With. Then select Klarna. Flexible shopping on Instacart. Flexible payments with Klarna. New customers get $15 off your first 2 orders of $60 or more when you pay with Klarna using code 15Klarna. Terms apply. See instacart.com or download the app for more details and to start shopping.
You love podcasts, the stories, the laughs, the unexpected turns. But when this episode ends, the silence starts. Not anymore. Audiobooks.com turns that silence into your next great adventure. With over 450,000 titles, from bestsellers to hidden gems, your love for listening just found its new best friend. And because you already know the joy of audio, we're giving you 3 free audiobooks to start your journey. Imagine your favorite podcast, now with unlimited episodes. That's audiobooks.com. Keep the story going. Sign up for your free trial at audiobooks.com/podcastfree today. Because for podcast lovers like you, the end of an episode is just the beginning. That's audiobooks.com/podcastfree. Welcome to the Law of Attraction Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Keith, and I wanted to remind you that if you want to be a beta tester for my new program, Freedom Tribe, where I'm going to teach you how to monetize your online content and make 10,000 plus every month with low ticket offers. So it's my exact strategy, system, the whole 9 yards is going to be included. And if you want to be the beta tester, you get a huge discount in early access. So you can sign up by going to the link in the show notes or go to thelawofattractiontribe.com/sign up. All right, today I have a special guest on the podcast, Melanie Ann Layer. Melanie is the founder of the Alpha Femme brand, a global coaching and mentoring company that launched in the online space in 2017. Her unconventional approach attracts women all around the world to lock arms and revolutionize what is possible for female entrepreneurs everywhere. Her unique vision, which she has coined business artistry, has taken the world by storm and brought an essence of feminine power to the marketplace. She models the effectiveness of her teachings in her own company, which has demonstrated record growth since its inception just a few years ago. And in the company culture that celebrates all women, their dreams, their well-being, their joy, their purpose, their sisterhood. The buzz around Alpha Femme has created a whirlwind of change across a diverse range of industries. Melanie walks alongside her clients who grow heart-centered companies of all sizes. In her words, success is a byproduct of the woman we become. All right, Melanie, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. It's so weird seeing you in person on my podcast because I started following you years ago. And I've just always looked up to you from afar. So I was so excited when this opportunity came up, and I can't wait to dive in because you are just so successful. And I want to hear from start to where you are now, because when the email came across for the podcast, I saw that you actually started out with Bankruptcy. And now you have this massive business where you're generating millions of dollars. And I just need to know, what happened? How did you go from that to this? And I know there's probably a lot to it, but let's just get an overview.
Okay. Well, the crazy thing about any story and anyone's story, I think, is that it could start at any point. Your life is a highway and there's merging points at any point. So I've told this story so many times, but I'm going to follow my intuition of where to start here based on the question that you asked me. But I will tell you that the journey that led me from bankrupt to where I am now is identity work. That's what ended up happening. So I was raised in a small French Canadian town, and the energy of that town is that most of the time, if someone is rich, they most probably did a bad thing. And so the small town kind people, they do their best, they help each other out. Everybody's trying to do their best. Like that's the vibe. And then anybody who's got more than they should have, usually probably has a secret, did something not so great. And it's common that that person would be picked apart behind their back. Like, yes, she's rich, but yes,
Right.
they're rich, but. And so I can't say that I ever aspired to be a rich person. That wasn't something that I aspired to be because it didn't ever seem like it was something that you could be rich and good at the same time. It
Mhm.
felt like it was a one or the other kind of thing. And good always trumped rich for me. We had phases in my life with my parents where we had good money, but we lost everything. My dad went bankrupt more than once. And for me, bankruptcy was like the worst thing on the planet. I had never had anyone close to me die, but I had had bankruptcy, and bankruptcy felt like the thing that kills your spirit.
Yeah.
And so from being a very young kid, I was terrified that I would go bankrupt one day. Like I remember not even knowing what it means, but feeling what it means. It's when everything dies. It's when everything stops. It's when the fun leaves the house. It's when the stress comes in. It's when the energy changes. It's when all you care about is money.
Hmm.
You can't do that because of how much it costs. It's no to everything that matters. And so I was terrified of going bankrupt. And couple that with the fear of, or the non-desire of being rich because I didn't want to be bad. I was always walking this tightrope of doing everything I could to be kind for everybody else, to prove that I was a good person, while never making quite enough to be solid. So always like one foot in debt and one foot in fear. Like that's just all that I would, so this tightrope of hell that I was walking on. And I guess my belief about myself is that I was a really, 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 really nice person. And that hopefully if I was a really, 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 really nice person, then good things should happen to me. And then that's not what happened. And so I started getting really frustrated with life because the more a nice person I was, the more I got taken advantage of, the more terrible things happened. And then I felt completely lost and puzzled because my entire life was lived within the identity of being a good person so that good things would happen to me so that I would deserve nice things. And instead, instead everything's falling apart. And so I was in this relationship for 7 years with a guy. I had issues with dating the wrong guys all the time, trying to prove myself to people who there was just no reason to prove myself to them. They weren't even paying attention.
Hmm.
And so I ended up in this relationship for 7 years with the wrong guy, played, we're done, we're not done, we're not done, we're done for 7 years. He cheated. I swore I'd never stay with a person who cheated. He cheated and cheated and cheated. I swore I wouldn't stay with a person who lied. He lied and lied and lied. I had to hold the energy of the entire relationship on my shoulders. We had no money. We stayed in this tiny little broken down house, which I know was haunted. Like the whole thing was just a disaster.
Man, oh my gosh.
And by the time I was 25 years old, my life was an absolute wreck. Like my career was a joke. I was selling infomercial style products in like a Walmart. I was not having a good life. I was constantly fighting with my partner. I didn't have friends. My relationship with my family was basically none. And my relationship with myself was just avoidance to not actually look at anything. Because if I looked, I think I'd have just cried myself to sleep every night. So I was just numbing and avoiding everything. And the crazy thing is my grandma, my French Canadian grandma, when I was a little girl, we were at her house and we were making these little caramels, little toffees. And she was like, "Do you know why we're making these?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Because it's a special holiday. It's called St. Catherine's holiday, and it celebrates old girls." You know what an old girl is? And I was like, "No." She was like, "That's when you're 25 and you're not married and you don't have kids." And she was
Oh,
like, "You know what's
wow.
interesting? Your birthday is on St. Catherine's Day. Wouldn't it be a shame if that happened to you?"
Oh, wow. Talk about limiting belief being placed in you.
So I always feared I'd be 25 and alone. And I think that's one of the reasons I stayed in the relationship for so long, because I was like, I'm getting close to 25. Like, I gotta get it with this person. We've got to figure it out. Also, my parents met when they were 18, and my dad was 18, my mom was 21. It was always like, that's the way you're supposed to do it. Everyone in my family met young, and I was 25. I break up with the guy. I'm bankrupt in the front seat of my car. I lose everything. And I had helped this guy become my boss at this job. He fires me from my job. I've got to go work 200 kilometers away from my hometown to be able to keep the same line of job, 100% commission. Within about a few weeks, I'm just so heartbroken and devastated. I can't sell anymore. So everything just dwindles. And it's not like I had a bunch of savings. So
Right.
everything just dwindles and I can't pay for my hotel bill. And I end up sleeping in the front seat of my car in a snowstorm in January, heartbroken, 25, basically the poster child for St. Catherine. And I'm just completely destitute. Like everything is broken. Everything is broken. And
Ugh.
I was so mad at everybody because
Mhm.
I couldn't be mad at me because I was the nice person. I had
Right.
done everything right. I had literally given up everything fun to be nice. And now I'm
Mhm.
here, so it's got to be someone else's fault. So I was mad at everything and I was mad at everyone. I was mad at my stupid parents, and I was mad at the stupid school system, and I was mad at my stupid ex and my stupid job and stupid everything. Like everything was a disaster. And I got myself to the most frustrated, bitter place I'd ever been in my entire life. And I'll never forget, I was sitting in my car and I just like pulled out my HTC Touch, which was my phone at the time, and I Googled how to make your ex-boyfriend cry. Like that's how done I was with
What
every.
revenge?
I wanted revenge. I was salty. I was angry. And it felt like the only thing I could do was get one back. And when I Googled it, instead of the results coming in for that,
Mhm.
the results were like how to have the relationship you want.
Mm.
Then I felt double ashamed because I was like, even Google isn't siding with me. This is bad. Like, this is not good. But going through reading all the things, it became very clear that I was still just kind of in a mess and living for everybody else except for myself. Why wasn't I wondering how to turn my life around instead of making everyone else equally as miserable? Why wasn't I Googling how to find the perfect partner, how to turn your life around after a bankruptcy, how to change your mindset? I didn't even know to Google those things. I didn't even think to do that.
Mhm.
And so my journey to personal development started because I had nowhere else to numb. I just couldn't numb anymore. And I've contemplated this for a while because I've heard of so many people who go through these, journeys up the mountain in Machu Picchu, and they do like water cleanses and then their life changes. Literally, I was sleeping in my car. I had no money. When I say no money, my debit card has $0. My credit card was being refused everywhere. I had no money for food. I had no money to sleep in a hotel room. I was trying to sleep in my car. It was freezing. I was rationing gas, and I had nobody to talk to. I could not tell my parents what I was going through. I was so mad at them for a million different reasons. My ex was my person for 7 years, even though he was the worst, he was the best, like he was the
Yeah.
only. So,
Mhm.
and so no friends, no nothing. And so I'm just stuck in this car in the cold, starving with my thoughts,
Mhm.
and I can't escape them. I can't watch stupid TV. I can't have a glass of wine. I can't do anything. And I'm just sitting there with my spinning mind and my empty stomach and my frustration. And I just had to face it. And so I started doing personal development work because I was curious when I Googled the wrong thing and I found the right thing. I was curious, and learning about this stuff started branching out into so many things. One of the things that really got me was energetics, masculine and feminine energetics, the art of manifestation, polarity, all these things that I'm like, what the art of attraction, like, what is it that makes things work in this world? And I'm like, how do I not know this? Like, I did not complete high
Mhm.
school. I don't have a high school diploma. And I'm like, this I would have cared about learning. I was also mad at the school system.
Yes.
Point. Why aren't they teaching emotional regulation? Why aren't they teaching us this?
Mhm.
Why aren't they teaching us that? Why have I never learned this? And then I felt like I'd wasted my life. I had a second loop of like, if I would have known this, I never would have been here. And then I needed to like get myself back and be like, it's not too late. I just felt so old.
Mhm.
25, I'm an old girl. I've messed up my life, and I'm just going to start to learn about the laws of the universe now. I'm going to start to learn that I am the one now. Like, why couldn't I have learned this before? Why did I have to wait till my life was over? But actually what started to happen is I started to feel better really fast. And nothing really changed. I was still sleeping in the front seat of my car, but all of a sudden, instead of having intense panic attacks, I'm excited to learn about what I'm learning about. And I'll never forget, I had this one moment where it's like I understood gratitude. I had this really solid moment sitting in the front seat of my car. Something happened and I felt it in my body. Nothing had changed, but I'm crying tears of gratitude all of a sudden. And it just changed me. I can't explain it. I had an old friend called me and I wasn't answering the phone for anybody, but I had a feeling to answer. And she told me all what she was going through. And based on what I'd been learning, I just kind of told her, I just shared what I knew.
Hmm.
And within a little while, she called me back and she was like, you have got to do this. Like you changed everything for me. And I was like, no, no, it's these books that I'm reading. And I read it. I told her some of the books. She's like, I read those books. What you did for me is not the books. That's not it. Like I've read the books. That is not it. And she said, you should be a coach. And I was like, what's a coach? And she said, well, Google it. And so I did. And I realized that you didn't need a diploma to be a coach. You just needed to help people.
Do it. Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm sleeping in the front seat of my car. I can't do any of this. Like when I'm better, when I have this, when I have that. And so not long later, she's like, I've been talking about you and I have a friend that wants to hire you. How much do you charge? And
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, I don't do that. That was just a one-off for you. And she's like, no, no, like I've told her what you did. She wants you to do the same thing for her. Like she wants to pay you. How much do you charge? And I had, through a series of events, paid $100 for something when I had no money. I'd gathered all my money because I thought this $100 thing was going to do everything for me. And at the time, I thought I'd wasted the $100. So I thought if I can spend $100 when I'm sleeping in the front seat of my car, if I can pull together $100 over weeks for something and not even get what I was supposed to get and still be okay,
Yeah.
I can ask for $100. So my first coaching call was $100. Took it from the front seat of my car, and the referrals never stopped. I built a six-figure business from the front seat of that Honda Civic, and people were just flooding with testimonials and referrals. And I just never went back to a normal house. I lived like a digital nomad for years. And I just built this invisible coaching thing where I just traveled in my car, saw the world, and lived off these one-on-one coaching calls until I started going onto the internet in 2016 to stay connected with some of the people I met in my travels. Never thought I could meet a person on the internet. The goal was just to connect with the people I'd met. But then
Yeah.
next thing started attracting people on the internet. And so I
Hmm.
started Alpha Femme in 2017, which was my online brand. We had $1 million year in 2018, and it just kept growing. Like 2019, we doubled. I was having a freaking, I couldn't believe it. $2.5 million. I was bankrupt just a few years ago. Like I could not get a house. I couldn't get a credit card, but I'm a multimillionaire. Like in the time it took for me to be pardoned from my bankruptcy, I made more money than I ever made in my life. And then 2020, I had this huge epiphany about my identity and who I wanted to be for the world. And I made a huge decision to raise the bar of Alpha Femme and to be like a beacon in this industry and to lead from the front, like really do it and claim my place and be the one. And in 2020, I had my first $1 million month. And then
Wow.
2021 was just huge, huge in 2022. And now we're about to celebrate $80 million since then. And
Wow.
I
That's
thank God every
incredible.
day. Yeah.
Here I'm thinking like, okay, $100,000 a month, like that's such a stretch goal. And you're having $1 million months, like that's insane. And
I know.
all coming from the front seat of your car. And I
Yeah.
think like I resonate so much with that story. I think so many people will, because number one, like talk about imposter syndrome when you're like in the front seat of your car and you have to like help other people. But that I love the way you talk about that $100 and how that helped you overcome it, because I feel like with my clients, like that is a big thing. Like I can't start charging this because I'm not there yet. I've only done this in my life, so I can't. And so looking at it from that perspective, like you had nothing and you still came up with $100, it's like the right people will find you, and the people that are ready to go on that journey and learn will spend the money. Like I feel like that just clicked in my mind of like how to
Yeah.
overcome this whole thing with like charging and pricing. And I feel, do you feel like you hear it a lot lately? Because I feel like with inflation, I hear so many other coaches talking about like, well, I have to lower my prices and I can't offer high ticket anymore because everyone's like having trouble with bills and everything like that. I feel like that has been in my ear a lot lately, and it's honestly, it's been messing with me a little bit. But then I hear you and I'm like, wait a minute, why are we telling this story? You know?
Well, okay, this is a very good question. So when we're talking about the masses, like who are we talking about? When we're saying the masses are talking about how things are tight right now.
Mhm.
If my desire is to help the masses, then it would be helpful to have something at a price point that can help the masses. I agree with that. I'm all about that. That's why I still do free master classes and I still do $100 offers to honor the person I was in that car,
Mhm.
because I know what it's like to not be able to buy a thing. And I think sometimes people are just so ready to change and they have no money, and that's what stops them.
Yeah.
And that it changed my life to invest $100 in me, even if I thought at the time it didn't do anything for me, which in the end it did. It took a minute, but I I did. I mean, $100 was more than I had for a week to survive, and I spent it because I thought it would change my life. But it was $100, and it meant more to me than some of the $10,000, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 investments I made in a better financial situation. It meant everything. I was all in at $100. So is it true that it's worth it to help a lot of people sometimes and to open something that's lower price? Yes, of course. As long as it comes from the right place and that you're honoring people that don't have the money. Yes, of course. But the question that's really helped me get here where I am is like people who, like who's everyone? Everyone who? Because it's not everyone. There's still billionaires on the planet. Are the
Right.
ratios in a certain way where probably most of the people would prefer to spend $100? Yes, of course. But what's our job? What are we doing? And so what I realized is that as I became more successful and I had more money, there were all kinds of different issues that came up for me because I had a lot of identity work to struggle with. Now all of a sudden I have money and a lot of people are starting to vilify me for this money. And I'm like, wait, am I actually bad? Did it happen? The thing I
Mm.
was always afraid would happen? Like, am I just not seeing it? Am I bad? But it's like, no, it's just that I'm now rich. And so rich equals bad for so many people. And it did for me for the longest time. I wouldn't have asked myself case by case, is this rich person bad? It was just like, oh, rich equals bad. Like there was just no questioning of it. And so I didn't really love rich people. And
Mhm.
so it was a work in progress to soften and to be like, what do I imagine about a rich person? Like, what do I think happens when the money comes?
Mhm.
Do I think people just automatically change? Like, oh, money's there and now they're this? Or do I believe they changed before the money? They become bad and then they get rewarded with money? Like, how does that happen? And so in contemplating it, I realized that probably the only reason rich people can be bad is because they're just kind of done with being judged and they can afford to not suck up to people. Like that ends up being what it is, because we're all judged, whether we make tons of money or no money, whatever we look like, wherever we live, what we choose, like everybody gets judged. It's just rich people don't have to pretend to like people to get paid. They
Yeah.
could just kind of pivot and go somewhere else. And so I had this like epiphany around being wealthy. And what I realized is that I would not pay $100 for someone to help me now. I would think, oh, that person, unless they had a full product suite and they had like, a six-figure
Right.
offer, five-figure offers, a
Mhm.
four-figure and one, then be like, okay, sure, 100. But I would not go for the $100 thing. I wouldn't test that 100 because it just doesn't make sense time-wise. Like that's not how I feel I'm going to connect to the person to make sure they're the right person for me. So it became less about raising the price to try to get a certain thing. It's like there is an energetic match price point for people.
Mhm.
And so the mass right now might be that $100 is an energetic match price point. That's fantastic. But what else is out there for people who are on a roll? Like I have clients that are multi-millionaires, like multi-millionaires. And it doesn't make sense for them to enter such a small offer. Like I have people who pay me $500,000 for private mentorship, but they make $10 million a year. What
Mhm.
does it take to have support like that on your business and to be held and to have someone know what to do and believe in the things to scale your business up and up and up? it makes sense for them to pay that. Then I have a mastermind that's $175,000 a year, but the people in there are making $2, $3, $4 million a year. You know, who's the person? And so a lot of the time it's identity work. The question is not, it's like, yes, maybe the masses are now spending less, but who do you believe you are? And do you believe that people that are more advanced in whatever it is that you're supporting them in are looking for someone more advanced? Who are you speaking to? If you're speaking to the beginner that's very much attached to the economy during an economic fear time, then yeah, of course. But if you're speaking to the leader, if you're speaking to the person who has the capacity to create, if you're speaking to the visionary, if you're speaking to the one that's also holding all the scared people that actually would love a solid leader, then you can be charging very different numbers. And so I have people this year that have paid me anywhere from $100 to, you know, $1,000 to 2,222 to 3,333 to 13,000 to 18,000 to 33,000 to 88,000 to $500,000. And they're different people at different phases of their business asking for a different thing. And so I think that's just the thing to contemplate sometimes is people who. Yes, a lot of people would do better with $100 offer, but who right now needs the support of a strong, powerful leader? And what does it cost for you to support someone with that much on the line?
I feel like you totally simplified that for me. Like that makes so much sense. Like it totally clicks. So where does the masculine and feminine energies come into play? Because I know you mentioned that briefly, but is that a main thing that you had to adjust and that you saw an imbalance in when you went from, you know, this scarcity mindset to charging millions of dollars?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most fundamental, important key components of my entire transformation is the understanding between feminine and masculine energetics, because I actually am predominantly a masculine energy person. Like from being a little kid, I'm the first of three. So I have the big sister energy.
Yeah.
And when my parents went through the bankruptcies, every time I had my dad's back, like I was, you know, his oldest son. Like I took it on, like I'm the man of the house every time. And if when I was a little kid, if I'd cry, my dad would look at me and go, "Hey, man up." Like yes, like I always kind of wanted that role, and I wanted to be the leader, and I wanted to be strong, and I wanted to do those things. It made me very bossy though. Instead of being the boss, it made me bossy. And so when I started learning about feminine energy, I understood the difference between pushing through to get versus being able to accept whatever comes without giving up. And that feminine is the receiving of whatever it is that you desire, that you want in this lifetime, without the nervous system overdrive, control, pushing, needing for it to work. If not, you give up or you don't believe or you burn out. Like that's the thing I always had, pushing and pushing and pushing. And I need it now and I want it now. And instead of, I know I will have this. And so let me have the space to be a mastermind, a genius about this. Give me the space to contemplate, to create the path, and let me trust in the path, and let me walk this path with confidence and charisma and playfulness and magnetism, because I'm more concerned about the quality of my life and how I show up in a room and how I feel and how everything feels than whether or not I succeed and get validated by this result in this amount of speed. And so the leaning back to receive in the feminine changed everything. But I realized all the things that were in the way that were causing that to feel impossible. I had a lot of issues feeling disappointed, feeling fear, feeling like it was maybe not going to work. And so the minute I felt those feelings, I tried to fix them in the masculine.
Right.
And so I had to teach myself, I had to teach my body to hold a question mark, a void, a maybe. You know, I think a reason a lot of people aren't willing to charge the higher pricing is because there's a question mark about who's going to buy it, and there's no space to hold the void, and they're not willing to find out if no one's going to buy it, and they'll give up way before it's actually the fact that no one's going to buy it. They'll give up so that they don't have to face the fact that no one was going to buy it. We don't have the capacity to feel fear, to feel test, to feel what it really takes to be a thriving visionary, like that risk, that it takes a lot of emotional strength. I was not equipped for that at all. And so taking that on in my journey changed everything. To face things with poise and strength and leadership and care and emotional intelligence, when I had every right to flip the tables and tell everyone to go screw themselves at times. I didn't. I really worked on everything, every step of the way, for me, for my business, for this industry. And it's positioned me in a way that is out of this world, but I would not have been able to hold what I have now a decade ago. I would have broken it 100 times. I would have sabotaged it, no doubt, because it's so much to hold this. And the feminine can receive and can hold. A lot of times it's all self-sabotage. You spend all your money. You decide it's a no before it's actually a no. You change your mind, you change your things, you change because you can't hold the pressure. That's exactly what I needed to learn how to do.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I think a lot of times we give up long before we even fail. It's the fear of the possibility of failure that people don't even get started, or they give up at the first sign of struggle. And like, that's not what faith is, right? Faith isn't like believing in it and it happens instantly. Faith is holding on to it and believing in it, even when it seems impossible. And
Yes.
I think that's such a big missing piece of the puzzle. But you also said, that playfulness, playful energy. And that stuck out to me because I feel like that is so key in manifesting. Like, I notice when I completely just let myself be and I have fun with my kids and I'm laughing and I'm on vacation or whatever I'm doing, money seems to come in like regardless of what actions I'm taking when I am in that energy. When I'm in like the forcefulness energy of like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And what if, how, that's when things slow down. And it took a lot of that pattern for me to realize, okay, maybe there is something to this playful energy. Maybe there is something to stepping back and focusing inward instead of focusing on controlling everything external. And so when you said that, I'm like, yeah, like that is, I feel like that's such a common thread with people that find success, is like they've understood how to get into that state of being. And it's not really about the doing, it's about the being, right?
100%. And I think this is why it's so difficult, is because we believe that the playfulness, well, I'll speak for myself. I believe that the playfulness would be the result of being financially free.
Yeah, right.
I didn't realize it was the key to it,
Right.
the gateway
Yeah,
to it.
that's so true.
And I feel like that's in a lot of cases we do that. We think I'll feel confident when I have a relationship. I'll feel confident in myself, instead of saying like it's the confidence in myself that's the key to the kind of relationship I imagine I'll have confidence in.
Yes.
So
Yes. Like
usually
this
if
makes
you think
so
the
much
thing gives
sense.
you, yeah, if you think that the thing gives you the thing, try just doing the thing first. Notice how then you manifest so effortlessly. We have the intuition of what it's going to feel like. We just imagine it's a result instead of the
Right.
gateway.
Well, I feel like we've been so conditioned that way,
Yeah.
like in our schooling system. So we're used to, I take this action and there's this result, but it's like, why not try this other way? Why not open yourself to seeing things a little bit differently? And if you can just like, I try to look at it as like a science experiment. Like I am just going to observe and see what happens and test it out. And every time I do that, it works. Like you said earlier, gratitude. It's like that is so immensely powerful. It can shift everything so quickly, yet we don't think about it that often. Like, when do we think about being grateful is usually when something goes wrong. Like, we don't think about gratitude for our health until we're sick and can't do anything. And so it's like just those little reminders of focusing on like internally what we're going through, I think is something we miss, and something we think we'll do later. Like, first I have to take this action. I'll worry about that stuff later. But no, like that's the thing that has to come first.
And I feel like with the people who are in personal development for the right reasons, meaning they're there to have personal development, not just like, oh, if I'm a better person, I'll be rich. Oh, if I'm a
Yeah.
better person, I'll have this. Like the ones who are just like, let me become the greatest version of me and then let's find out what happens. The beauty is that it's almost impossible, if that is the context for your life, is that you are becoming the greatest version of you. It's impossible to not be connected to these energies, because every time you nail it, you feel grateful. Every time you see something
Hmm.
beautiful, you feel grateful. Every time you notice you feel different, you feel grateful. Every time you realize what you're doing and how you're living your life, you feel grateful. Whenever you see someone else that's not yet working on themselves, you can be grateful that you've chosen this path. Like the minute you get on the path, the signs for gratitude are everywhere.
Yeah.
But you've got to be
Yeah.
doing it for you. It's got to be an inner journey. And I love that you said it's like a science experiment, because that is one of the things that really helped me get going on this. One of my earliest discoveries in my research was the conversation about Thomas Edison and the like 3,000 attempts to build the light bulb.
Yeah.
I remember contemplating that and being like, 3,000 attempts. Like, what kind of mindset do you need to have? Because I know me at this point, at that point in my life, I'm like, how many times can I handle failure? Like
Hmm.
10,
Right.
20 for something that I really believe I can do? 30, I don't think I can even do 30. Like that's it. I'm done. 3,000. How do you need to approach something? It's like, okay, so what worked, what didn't work, what do I need to do differently? And then what worked and what didn't work, and then what I need to change. And like, what am I keeping and what am I not keeping and what am I pivoting? And then, okay, this is what I wrote. And you've got to keep track of everything, because you can't have tried something 70 times and then go, wonder if we tried this one before. Like
Right.
you've got to log everything with curiosity, celebrate every little breakthrough, and turn the page every time it doesn't work out. What kind of master of the mind and emotions and spirit do you need to be in order to try something 3,000 times and still keep going? Like that's the kind of person I want to be.
Yeah.
And this thought came through me that was like, live your life the way you want to tell the story in hindsight. And I,
Oh, wow. That's powerful.
yeah, I thought, like, if I'm gonna be one day recognized for my work, then this phase of me being in the car is part of the story. If I'm going to do something one day, this part is part of the story. So how am I going to tell the story? That I almost gave up, that I couldn't do it, that I didn't care, that I did it. So everything I've done from very early stages of sleeping in my car had this context wrapping it. Live your life the way you want to tell the story in hindsight. Every up, down, sideways thing that has happened in my life in the last decade, I've run through that context. And it's changed everything because I'm proud of how I handle things.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and I don't know what your belief is on this, but another pattern that I see is I feel like if you're meant to do something and you're not doing it because of fear or whatever, I feel like the universe will like throw something at you to kind of like force you to get off your ass and do something. So like your situation, like you're in the front seat of your car. Like I had a situation where I was, having panic attacks and just being like basically going through this horrific event with my boss at the time. But I always look back at like those things and it's like, had I not had that boss that got me to the point where I was having panic attacks, would I have ever left? Like,
Mm.
would I have ever taken the risk? Because it was almost like it had to get so bad that the fear of leaving was less than the fear of staying. And so I kind of like notice that in other people when I hear their stories that like sometimes I feel like maybe there is this like divine intervention of like, okay, this is going to be really tough, but it is going to shake you up so much that it's going to get you off that path you weren't meant for and put you on this path that you know you can lead. Like you just have to have a little nudge to get there. So I don't know if that's how you look at it, but I just feel like on the other side of those low moments, you can only go up. And there's so many success stories that come out of the negative.
I feel like this is something I've also contemplated quite a little bit, because I noticed that some people have stories like that and some people don't have stories like that.
Hmm.
But I feel like there are basic things that we learn about ourselves from a very young age where we either know we can choose our life and we can do whatever we want, or we don't. And when a person knows that, and they've always had evidence that you can do whatever you want, they might have struggles in other areas, but like the area of their identity that tells them you can have whatever job, you can be paid what you deserve, like that part of their identity, it's solid. They just wouldn't end up in a job that doesn't pay them properly. They just wouldn't. And so they know how to leave. And so they would. They
Mhm.
won't need that breakdown. But for the person who's never taught that, it's like you're going to learn this a different way. And I
Yeah.
feel like it's still a manifestation because when I think about how many days in the difficulty of my life, I said, I don't want this to be my life. I
Mhm.
don't know what I want my life to be. I just know I don't want this to be my life, yet I did nothing about it. I
Right.
just complained about my life and thought, I can't believe this is my life and I don't like it and I'm miserable and I don't even know what I want to do. And even if I did want something, I probably wouldn't know how to do it because my luck, blah, 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 blah. And
Mhm.
so the only thing any supportive force could have done for me, Mother Nature, God, the universe, the only supportive action that could have been taken for me was to literally destroy what I had.
Yeah.
Like Zeus lightning bolt, like
Right.
that's the only thing I can do, like burn your ship or break what you've got so you have no choice but to build something else because you're not listening to yourself, you're not using your God-given gifts, you're not following your nudges, you're not doing anything about this, so let's just burn what you've got and then let's see if we can find someone a little more connected in there. And that's what happened. But I know that that's not always necessary for people. And I've really wondered about this because I'm like, if this is always what we need, how do we permanently create change on the planet? Because if we always need that, it means every generation of us will need that. It means it's always going to be a fresh new generation, no matter what we do, we'll never advance. And I don't like that. I want to feel like as we help future generations be more equipped with their understanding that they can do anything, we're going to go a lot further in what we can do as human beings. And for that, it needs to be transferable. And the
Mhm.
transferable part is you can do huge things.
Yeah.
And if you want it, you can do it. And you've got to learn to regulate your nervous system. You have to learn to be able to handle overwhelming emotions because it takes a lot of fear and a lot of stress and a lot of all kinds of things to hold the kind of big dreams that you're hoping for. And you've got to be able to connect to gratitude and never desensitize it, no matter how many good things come to you, because the minute you stop being grateful, it'll all stop. Like let's teach this. And then eventually we might have a different world, but it's an inner identity shift. It's something inside of us that needs to change of like, I'm a match for that. I would never tolerate that. This is just who I am. It's the way it works for me. Right now, what most people say is, this is just who I am. I don't know why things don't work. I guess it's just who I am. It doesn't matter how much I try. It just always fails. And I see everybody else try, but it's not for me. Like that's the basic identity of the planet. That's what needs to be shifted is we need to remember that we're connected to so much more. Like we're a tiny little human connected to greatness. Like we're technically giants, but not in physical form. In physical form, we're just this little human. I'm in Hawaii right now and I'm driving through the mountains and I'm looking at the trees and I'm like, I couldn't even break one of these tree branches if I tried. Like I'm not even able, I couldn't even break a tree branch. And there's just trees and mountains and mountains. Like I'm tiny, but I'm affecting change on the entire planet with my energy body, with the words that I'm saying, with the fact that I just keep being brought to different places and people are starting to know my name and my teachings are going global. But I'm a giant energetically, but I couldn't break the branch of one of these trees. This is what it is that we are. We're walking with giants on this planet right now with the connection with social media, with our ability to affect change on people. I can affect more change than one of these mountains can.
Yeah. Oh, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
I love that perspective though, because I have three kids and, sometimes like I'll listen to certain podcasts or whatever, and it's usually that masculine energy that's like, well, they have to go through all these struggles because that's what builds all the, character and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes I wonder, like, man, am I making it too easy? But I like your perspective of like, my kids are growing up knowing they can do whatever they desire in this life. And like that is so much more powerful. And I like that, there are two different ways to go about it. I would rather this way. And I think it does advance us each generation. They don't have to go through all the same traumas and things that we went through. They can just start from a place of like knowing and accepting who they are and like knowing that they can be anything they want to be, do anything they want to do. Like that's a belief that makes me feel so much more positive just as a mother and like looking at the future. So
And the
thanks for
fact is,
that.
whatever they go through in their life after you've done your best, that's going to keep shaping them anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like right now, what they're getting from you is the belief that they can do great things.
Hmm.
And what life is going to show them eventually is that even though they want to do something, there's an obstacle. And then it's their character and their ability to handle sadness, disappointment, that's going to help them get through that. But there's other ways you can help them access that, literally playing games with them and helping them through a loss
Hmm.
instead of punishing them when they have a bad attitude, like showing a person how to handle, you just lost this game. There's nothing you can do about it. This was a loss, like being able to handle that. It's playful, but it has the same repercussions. A lot of the people who are unable to lose a game as a kid don't play the game as an adult. They just play the
Yes.
game. And so you can teach your kids through the most playful ways. You can teach them how to navigate failure and how to be resilient through games, but you can
Yeah.
show them possibility through the life you've built. And I think that's a really amazing opportunity.
Oh, absolutely. I just love like where this conversation went. It's like I didn't ever think it would go that way, but like that's exactly what I needed to hear just because this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, like with my kids. So I can't even tell you like how helpful it is to talk about this.
Oh, good.
I feel like we could talk all day, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. Um, but before you go, I want to know like what is this invisible offer? Because I'm so intrigued, and I know like I see you doing things on this, and like give us a little bit of what that's all about.
So I've been a little bit of a disruptor and a rule breaker in this industry ever since I started.
I
With
love
so much
that.
love and compassion. Like it's not like I'm a baddie. It's just I just don't like to be told what doesn't work. I'm like,
Yeah.
And people love to tell you what doesn't work. When I first started in this industry, there weren't that many women thriving. It was a lot of the click funnels, webinars that
Yep.
lead to the thing. And I don't know how to do that. Like, I don't even know. I don't even have a website. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to speak to people who get activated by what I'm saying, who know I'm speaking the freaking truth and are like, you're my girl. Where are we going? Like, those are my people. I don't know the whole lingo. I don't know how to do it. And so people were telling me, if you don't invest in this, you'll never be successful. Well, I'm like, well, that's not going to work for me. Cause I was also told if I didn't have a high school education, I'd never amount to anything. And I was also told. So I'm like, I just don't buy that stuff. So I worked with energy,
Mhm.
pure energy to build my business. And I wanted to teach people how to do that because there is something so powerful about this. This is more like the art of business. Why is Taylor Swift kind of business? Like what makes that buzz, that magnetism and the polarity and how to handle all of that. And so one of the things I was teaching was a concept, one of my programs called cash. And I explained the energetics of selling and I got people saying it doesn't work. You can't just sell with energetics. You absolutely have to have all the details and all the things. And I said, I agree that for some people that is important, but for a lot of people on the planet, it isn't. It's a gut feeling. You don't even need the details. You don't read the sales page. You just go, I'm in, that happens. And people are like, no. And I said, okay, I'll prove it then. And so I invented this thing called the invisible offer. I did not tell people what it was. I just said, this is invisible. The price is going to go up without warning. Every time I bring it up, I'm going to give you a little bit more information so that people who do buy with full information can continue to buy as the price goes up. And then eventually I'll release it. You'll know what the program is. You'll know what you bought. And I've now done 4 invisible offers in my career and people go wild. And I have defied every rule with these. And some people hate that I do this because it pisses them off to no return. Like they're so mad that this works. But I have raving testimonials about every single one of these. And so there's an invisible offer that's happening right now. The price right now is $444 as we speak on April 2nd, but it goes up without warning as more details come in and the price raises and more details come until it gets released with all of its information. And then what tends to happen is people are like, what? If I would have known it was that, I would have bought the thing, like that's
Right.
And so what's fun is I know what the program is. It's invisible to other people, but I know what it is. So all the right energy is there. I'm excited. I know what I'm doing. I know how beneficial it is, but other people just know the energy. And for people who can trust themselves and trust their gut and their intuition, it's like the most rewarding kind of offer. And I'll do something like this like once a year. And this is what we're doing right now.
Oh, I love the concept. That's amazing. Where can everyone find the offer? I'll link it in the show notes. Is there anywhere on social media you want people to go check you out?
Well, in my link tree on my Instagram, you'll be able to
Okay.
find it there. And you can also DM. I have the most amazing team that's in my inbox all the time. So anything you want, you just message me like, can I have a link to the invisible offer? And they will give it to you.
Oh, perfect. I love that. I'm going to go check it out. That sounds absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. I feel like there's just so many pieces of wisdom throughout everything you said. And I just really appreciate you coming on. And yeah, we'll have to stay in touch.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me. And this just flew by.
I know it definitely did. All right. Well, you have a great day. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in.